Heartland Highways is made possible in part by EIU's Academy of Lifelong Learning, providing all community members an outlet for their educational, social, and creative pursuits. Opportunities to learn new skills, engage in topics of interest, and explore new areas of learning. Available for people of all ages. More information available at 581-5114.
Hello and welcome back to Heartland Highways. The Wes Whiteside Garden just outside of Charleston was a story we presented all the way back in season 2.
Now, if you recall, Wes is a retired botany professor from Eastern Illinois University who spent the last 50 years creating a 5-acre garden that contains many rare and unusual plants, flowers, and trees.
Well, since our first story aired, a few things have changed with the garden and a few things haven't.
Now, you'll still find Wes working in the garden on a regular basis, but now several volunteers from the region are also working with him.
Right. The other major change is the future of the garden that will ensure this Coles County treasure remains for all to see and enjoy.
Now 50 years old, Wes Whiteside's garden, located just outside of Charleston, has grown into a unique and botanically diverse garden treasure in central Illinois. In some areas, his plant collections rival those found in the Chicago and St. Louis botanical gardens. Realizing the historic and scientific value of the garden, Wes asked Eastern Illinois University to further develop the garden so that it can continue to be used for education, research, and outreach for future generations.
Well, certainly at Wes's initiative, he's been, thinking about this, I think, for a while. What is going to happen to the garden when something happens to him? And so it was certainly at his initiative. And since Janice and I are friends of Wes's, we had talked to him a little about it, and we certainly wanted to see it be a success,
And we bring classes out here, and Botany Club comes out and a lot of other activities. So, and we knew he was interested in doing it, and it went for several years, and it just really wasn't working. There were glitches in the way. So then we went and met with President Perry. We scheduled a meeting for Wes to meet with President Perry, and it got done.
And with that decision, new opportunities for education and public involvement cropped up.
There are lots of people in the community who are interested in helping out here or interested in just seeing this incredible place. And we wanted to give them the opportunity to help out where it's so needed and valuable out here. So we were asked by the Whiteside Garden Advisory Board to come out and just on a volunteer basis give volunteers that opportunity, put together events and the chance to get the community into the garden. And so we were more than happy to do that and have been really enjoying working with the volunteers.
And we've been amazed at the responses we're getting. I mean, so many local people have come up to us and be like, I've heard so much about this garden, but I've never seen it. So now this is our opportunity to see it and weed it.
I more or less decide. I have to try to figure out things that I think they're capable of doing and what needs to be done. So I kind of direct them as to where they need to work.
He especially likes to send us to the daylily breeding beds. That's, I think, his favorite spot, pride and joy, yeah. He does breed daylilies, and so we do often end up over there weeding, and it's a really beautiful location to work, but I think that gives us a little insight into his heart and his values, that's where he really loves to see things maintained and kept up beautifully.
Well, we have a core group of locals, Charleston Mattoon residents that have been coming since we started since the spring.
And it's a growing group.
And it's a growing group, and we're amazed at how much they come in. And they're just like a local dentist, a local gardener, a local housewife. And there's lots of employees from EIU that, we bug them a lot because we get on the email list server and such. But they're just local people that have read about it in the newspaper or seen it on Facebook and have contacted us interested in joining. And then word of mouth. Like today, we got 3 new people just because of word of mouth.
Several new volunteers, and some from Lakeland Community College in Mattoon, as well as we have a large group of biology students here from EIU who are in a class learning about botany, and so this is a great learning experience for them to come out and see it firsthand and participate in the community rather than just inside the classroom. So we're really happy to be able to provide those connections to people as well, and we really see a lot of potential for this site being an educational destination as well. It's a lot of fun. I always learn new plants every time we come out. We see new plants we've never seen before, learn new things about how he cares for the plants that we've never heard of before. And coming out on a monthly basis as we've scheduled volunteer events so far, it's been an incredible montage of this changing of seasons through the garden, and every month we really are surprised by the differences we see. So it's an adventure to come back each time.
Yeah, and Dr. Whiteside is a great teacher.
EIU interns and graduate assistants took on the project of cataloging and photographing the vast collection of plants, flowers, and trees. Prior to that, all information about the garden was kept in Wes's head.
And amazingly, it still is in there.
it is.
He just amazes us at how he can tell us that he purchased a plant in, say, 1969 and where he purchased it. And,
How well it's done. And even
et
ones
cetera,
he's
et
lost, he can pretty much
Talk
remembers
to
a
us
lot of
about
those too. I mean, I can hardly remember last year what I put in or where it came from.
But it is such an exciting project, and to be able to actually involve more students out here, it's just such a wonderful learning,
Right.
opportunity. Nowhere in the Midwest do you see a carnivorous garden like this. Nowhere do you see Franklinia trees, that he has. The magnolia collection is one of the best as far as we know in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Again, neither of the two major botanic gardens here have anything like that. Daylilies are one group of plants that a lot of them were developed here in the U.S., unlike a lot of our other horticultural groups. And he has like maybe 20 from this early American breeder and 20 others from that early American breeder, many of which you can't find commercially anymore. So even that breeding material for that is just
It's
very, very
gone.
valuable for research purposes and for breeding purposes.
And then many of the cultivars he has developed himself that are the late blooming ones, and there's, and he's still developing them, he's still releasing them. So yeah, it's a really special collection.
The Whiteside Garden is already a community resource that more and more people are becoming involved with. Students, researchers, and organizations come here to discover this unique botanical treasure, and that's just the start. Future plans include using the garden for retreats, weddings, field trips, outreach opportunities, and a whole lot more.
I just think the most rewarding thing is knowing that you're part of this preservation effort. It's incredibly meaningful to see what Wesley has accomplished out here, and to know that you can play an active and vital role in keeping this place alive, and that makes us feel, it's so meaningful and deep to be part of that.
Keeping with our gardening theme, our next stop is at the 5-acre Daylily Farm near Tolono, Illinois. We had the opportunity to visit the farm when hundreds of varieties of this easy-to-grow flower were in full bloom.
They are one of the most carefree perennials you'll ever encounter. If you have sunshine, you can grow a daylily. Earliest ones that I'm aware of were in China. The first ones were brought to the North American continent by the colonists, and they escaped cultivation. So sometimes you see them growing along roads in the country, and they're orange, and the tawny daylily kind of gets a bad name because it is somewhat invasive, but that's the limited and distant ancestor of all daylilies. There are several recognized forms. Usually they're recognized by the form of the flower. So there are miniatures, which are under 3 inches. There are unusual forms where the petals twist and turn and drape. There are ruffled daylilies and bagel daylilies and There are daylilies from 6 foot tall to 18 inches and smaller. We've got one in bloom now that's about 12 inches tall. So the classification for them is basically by the flower and what the flower looks like.
And that variety of shape, size, and color can all be attributed to hybridizers, who back in the 1960s doubled the daylily chromosomes, making it such a versatile perennial. While they may resemble a tiger or Asiatic lily, daylilies are not in the lily family. Botanically speaking, they're in a class by themselves known as Hemerocallis. The American Hemerocallis Society is the organization that oversees and registers daylilies. To date, there are over 75,000 registered daylilies, and that number continues to grow as hybridizers work to create new varieties.
When you look at a daylily, you want a plant that produces a lot of scapes, which is the stem that comes out of the plant. You want one that produces a lot of buds on that scape because you want that plant to last a good 30 days. And a good daylily should be in bloom for at least 30 days, and some of them will repeat as well. So you want to look at the number of buds and the number of scapes, but each flower will only last one day.
Yes, and the buds on there, they obviously don't grow at the same rate. There'll be one bud that's a lead bud on there that will be closer to maturity, and some that are just barely started. And so that's what happens is they come along progressively.
Daylilies are bred to grow in just about every climate zone, and they come in a variety of colors. The only colors you won't find in a daylily are true white and true blue, at least not for now. While July is peak time for many blooms, there are varieties that start in late spring.
Here in this region, it goes from May 20th until frost in October 15th, October 20th. And yes, what we're specializing in at this point, one of the things is we worked with a hybridizer in Charleston whose name is Wes Whiteside. He's a retired professor from EIU, and he was specializing in late blooming daylilies, and we have introduced 5 or 6 for him. We've got several more to go as well. And when we say a late or a late, we're talking about it doesn't start blooming until the end of August, and almost always a couple of his get killed off by the frost. They never get a chance to bloom out.
Today, Jim and Rod grow between 800 and 900 registered varieties of daylilies, but they didn't start out that way. Like other people, they just enjoyed gardening, and they had the space to grow a lot of things. Along the way, they became friends with Ron Valent, a well-known daylily hybridizer from Maine. After his death in 2001, Jim and Rod had the opportunity to carry on Ron's work in developing new types of daylilies.
It's not hard to put a pretty face on a daylily. It really isn't. What's hard is developing a daylily that has 25 to 30 buds and candelabra branching, and that the foliage stays green and nice. That's what's hard, getting all of those things together. I could take you around the garden and on the right day, and I could let you turn you loose with 4 or 5 plants, and you could produce a plant that would be an absolutely beautiful flower, but it might or might not have the proper foliage to be a good garden plant, or the proper bud count to be in bloom long enough to make it matter.
Finding that right mix of characteristics is about a 5-year process, and it begins with taking the place of Mother Nature and a bee.
You're taking the pollen off one flower and you're putting it onto the pistil of the other flower, and it goes down the pistil into the ovary in the flower and forms seeds. And there's a little seed pod, if it sets properly, that looks like a walnut, that is green, and then it turns gray, and then it turns brown, and then it dries and it pops open. And inside that seed packet, there are anywhere from 4 or 5 to as many as 12.5 seeds.
And that's the easy part. The seeds are eventually planted, and over the course of 4 years and blossom cycles, the specimens are determined to be keepers or not.
Each year, new characteristics come out in those 4 blossom cycles. So when you get through the 4th blossom cycle in the 5th year, usually 99% of the plants are stable. You know that it's going to be 28 inches tall. You know that it's going to have a bud count between 14 and 20. You know that it's going to double where you started out with 1 fan, suddenly you have 3 fans, suddenly you have 6 fans. And you can judge the plant on all those things. Like Jimmy says, you can create pretty faces, but pretty faces are by far not it, because you're not looking for just one pretty flower. You're looking for a plant that's going to produce a lot of flowers and multiply itself.
Every variety, every daylily has its own name.
Yes.
And hybridizers take great advantage of that. A lot of Mr. Valence lilies are named after places or friends in Maine, but you see everything. I mean, the names, and some of the names are kind of funny. A couple of them are borderline vulgar. And many of them are very descriptive of the parents of the plant or what the plant looks like now.
There's a beautiful one that's absolutely gorgeous yellow that is very ruffled and has a beautiful red center, and it's called Good Morning America, and I love Good Morning America. I just think it's so beautiful.
With so many varieties to choose from, it's easy to become overwhelmed. But Jim and Rod offer this advice when it comes to choosing a daylily.
Pick a color palette that you like. And then think about height, because there's a lot more out there than what you see in the garden center. And the other thing is, look at daylilies. Come and look at a farm where there are daylilies, where you can look at plants and see some of the diversity that's out there. And then talk to somebody that grows hardy daylilies and go from there.
Yes.
I mean, it really is the sky's the limit with this plant anymore. It really is. As long as you've got sunshine, they're not shade lovers, but as long as you've got sunshine, the sky's the limit. They really are one of the last, I think, carefree perennials.
I love to have people say, I can't grow anything because that's my biggest challenge. Okay, I'm going to bring you a daylily and I want you to plant it and see what you like and give it to them for free. And suddenly you make a gardener. Honestly, it's happened a number of times.
And when somebody comes back and tells you they killed one, you go, you did what?
You can't.
How did you kill a daylily?
You couldn't have killed a daylily.
Our final story takes us to Clark County, Illinois, where one group is on a mission to bring nostalgia to the masses via old-time radio. Old-time radio theater performs famous radio shows just like the days of old, but with some new technology.
That was radio, a treasure chest of golden sounds and voices. Radio was the first electronic home entertainment available at the flick of a switch. It turned the whole country from coast to coast into one great audience. And oh, what a stage radio was.
We recreate the days of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s with presenting radio programs as they were done in the studio. And play commercials, the whole gamut of that era of entertainment.
They call themselves old-time radio theater. And if you ask them, they're just a group of people having...
It's just fun.
A fun thing to do.
So this is just fun. We just have a ball. It's fun.
That word keeps coming up, having fun, but that's pretty much when we came here. We said, if we're not going to have fun, we won't do it. So the salaries, is the laughter as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, well, a little epidemic can't hurt things. Here.
If laughter is the salary, then entertainment and nostalgia are certainly the second payout for the group from the Clark County, Illinois area, who have been together for only about a year now.
Well, we're really going toward an audience that remembers the 40s, the 50s. TV started, I believe, in 1952. And then radio overlapped for several years. But that's the era of the people that we really appeal to. And it's just fun seeing them remember, seeing the light come on and hearing them laugh, and they catch the laugh lines and things. We have some canned laughter, but they'll catch it on their own too. And the first time we did it for a nursing home, and it had been in the paper that we were doing it. So we probably had close to 100 people, because we had almost as many public as we had residents of the nursing home. And you could just hear people cackling and laughing all the way through the whole group.
The older folks, they can actually see it coming. They remember hearing it as a young person, and you can see them just start to break out in a grin before the line ever comes. And one older gentleman, well into his 70s, maybe 80s, he was walking out the door with his wife, and I heard him say, "That's the most fun I've had in years." And we just made his night. He was thrilled with it.
Well, the shows that we've done so far, people have very much enjoyed us. And it brings back a lot of memories for the older generation. They just smile in the audience. And you know, when we're casting, we laugh at the lines too, even though we've practiced them over and over. They're so hilarious. I think the writers back in that era were very, very intelligent, much more than what they actually probably receive as far as acknowledgement, because it was all radio. It wasn't the TV, the visual part. So they were very intelligent writers.
My father and mother came to see us a few times, and they just, he tells me, he said, "Oh, that was fun." He said, "That was a blast." He said, "I remember listening to some of those shows with my dad," and so it is that nostalgia factor. I think it takes them back to a simpler time when there was less rush. You didn't have, to be 20 different places at once, and you had a chance to take a break and breathe and really kind of enjoy life a little bit more.
Not as simple is the production of old-time radio theater shows. The events take perfect timing and a combination of old and new technology.
It's interesting in the fact that it's different than the vocal parts, because you do have to be tuned into the script, and Brian, being the technique that he is, technology, he has it all on the computer, and so but you've got to be on cue, or because if you miss hitting the sound button at the proper time, the whole gang and the whole team is waiting on that, basically. So the sound is very, very much as important as what the script is, actually.
I think it's a perfect example of how things can coexist. You take the best of the past and mix it with what's new, and you have something that's, I think people can get a lot of enjoyment out of.
Hello, Janie and Irma, my two little pinball machines. One a sure winner, the other a little tilted.
Professor.
Yes, bud.
Part of the entertainment value for the group comes through casting just the right person for the part.
Personally, I take on several different characters, female characters at times. Sometimes I have to do more than one, or we'll combine characters in a script. We had one that was kind of a haunted house type thing, and I had to do a couple of different things there. And then some of the current scripts, we have multiple characters. Sometimes it's kind of like typecasting, but it's also what voice lends best to that character.
Well, this group has pretty much typecasted me as the dumb blonde or the airhead.
Oh, an idiot could do that.
And I'm really enjoying playing those parts, even though they give me jabs on that. But no, seriously, the group is, like I said, we're just a team, and we all work together, and we try to help each other and assist each other. And I appreciate Brian and Penny and all that they have put in to making this work for all of us. And so it's a plus for all of us.
The group rehearses once a week on Mondays and come from all walks of life. They say bringing a smile to someone's face is what it's all about.
We have a retired Navy Master Chief. We have a retired school teacher. We have a soon-to-retire professional secretary at work at the school. We have a nursing home administrator. We have a maintenance man. We have just a cross section. It's a fun thing to do, and I think everybody here, we have as much fun at practice as we would be performing. And our motto is to have fun, and that's what we do.
We've all done different things in our lives, and yet we've come together to this point in time in our life, and we found something we all enjoy, and we found something that's just really, I think, enhanced our lives.
That closes the book on another chapter of Heartland Highways.
For more stories anytime, you can visit our YouTube page at youtube.com/WEIUTV.
Thanks so much for watching. Heartland Highways is made possible in part by EIU's Academy of Lifelong Learning, providing all community members an outlet for their educational, social, and creative pursuits. Opportunities to learn new skills, engage in topics of interest, and explore new areas of learning. Available for people of all ages. More information available at 581-5114.